I would like to call this meeting to order, October 1st, 2025, meeting of the Board of Directors of Palo Verde Health District. When you please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Joanna, can you please take roll call?
President Carmelo Garnica. Vice President Rosie Robo. Here. Director Trina Thornton. Please say again, Trina, what I'm saying. President, thank you. Director Dr. David Brooks is absent for today. Director Sandra Hudson.
Comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to speak not listed on the agenda that are of public interest and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district. For the record, please state your name. The board has a policy of limiting any speaker to not more than 3 minutes. The board cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda, and board members will not enter into discussion with speakers, but may instead refer the matter to staff for report and recommendation at a future board of directors meeting. Public input may be offered on the agenda items when they come up for the discussion and or action. Is there any public comment?
Good evening, Madam Chair, other board members, staff, and our community. Thank you for being here tonight. I have one question on item 5A real quick. Are we going to have a public comment after that item, just a report, or no?
There's going to be public comment after that item.
Okay, thank you. So the only item I have right now then is I'm sorry, Leslie Joseph Hawkins. I availed myself of the Lone Pine agenda for their meeting a couple of weeks ago, where they are experiencing similar financial difficulties and Chapter 9 filings and those kind of things, the same as us. I mean, I think we talked a couple weeks ago that the story was pretty much the same as here. One thing that they had on that agenda that I've not seen here is that with that filing of Chapter 9, they did renegotiate the CEO contract in order to lower costs. And so I would like to know how come we have not done that. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment? Seeing none? Oh,
Good evening. My name is Dee Coates. I wasn't able to attend the LAFCO meeting the other day, and I have a few questions about that. Why was it that the board did not go in its entirety to that meeting? You're asking these people for money, but yet you can't show up to their meetings to participate in them. And then you have Miss Wade. She stands up and starts the meeting off. Miss Anaya never spoke. Miss Garnica finally got up and spoke. And the board, I think, was a little offended by all that you didn't take the time or the effort to even get before them and speak personally. And I can understand that. The LAFCO board, I listened to it 3 or 4 times. They repeatedly urged you, since you lost the confidence and the faith of the community and they no longer trusted you, for you to resign. And at one point, Commissioner Ariello said, and you should do it today. And none of you responded to that, none of you. And My question is, if you're gonna file chapter 9, you've done all the damage you can do, why don't you resign? And you let somebody else fill your spot and see if they can piecemeal this thing back together so that we can continue with the hospital. And that's all I got to say on that.
Any more public comment?
Yeah, I have a question. So the meeting that you authorized the vote to file chapter 9, that was very specific to file chapter 9. On September 24th, the State of California Economic Development Department received a WARN Act notice from Palo Verde Healthcare District. And it notices that it's going to be a permanent plant closure on November the 23rd, meaning the hospital's closed, and all employees will be laid off. Who authorized that? How was that authorized? Was the board even aware of that WARN Act notice being submitted? And for the public's consumption, WARN Act notices when a government agency or an agency that has more, or any employer has more than a specific number of employees that they're planning on laying off either permanently or temporarily. This was a permanent layoff. So were you aware of that, and how was this authorized since it was agendized?
Any more public comment?
I have a question. I was told that item 5E won't be on the agenda. Is that correct? I'll give you like 3 minutes because I'm asking if item 5E is going to be in the agenda or not, a medical staff.
We're not there yet.
Say it again. Do you see 5E says medical staff?
Yes,
Are you guys removing it?
yes. We haven't approved.
Oh, can I get like 3 minutes on that?
I watched that while she was talking.
Oh.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Well, I have been telling this board that you should bring your agenda item and approve it at the beginning, and this is clearly why. Because if I had not said, the public doesn't know that. I knew that because I was aware. This is not a transparency. The public didn't know you removed that item on the agenda. Your agenda showed that, and they didn't know that. I knew that. That is not fair to public. It's something I knew and they didn't. Thank you. Please, and you guys claim that you are transparent and your report to and your response to Blackwood that you claim transparency, and it's not. Your transparency is anything but an empty word. On the resolution that you passed, resolution 2025-10 last month for bankruptcy. At the last page of that resolution, it clearly says, page 5, passed, adopted, and approved at the regular meeting of Board of Directors of Palo Verde Healthcare District on this 22nd day of this September 2025. That is false. That was not a regular meeting. That was a special meeting. So resolution you passed has no legal force. It was a violation of Brown Act, has no legal force. You guys, mentioned that you care about transparency, and an employee asked your chief financial officer, who is reported to be seasoned chief financial officer. He was hired in January 2024 as an account manager. In October, he became controller, and in the following January, 3 months later, he became CFO. I don't know how he's seasoned, but I could tell he's not. When an employee asks him how much cash you have on hand, how much cash you have on hand, you ask everybody else here, they know the answer is a dollar amount. I have $2,000, $100, or $20. But the CFO response was 5 days cash. And when I asked him, what does 5 days mean? Well, maybe you don't like my answer, but my answer just stays the same, 5 days cash. So this is not that seasoned attorney that you guys have to advise you to get this hospital out of bankruptcy. You have multiple mistakes on those reports to the lab code. And I don't have enough time in 3 minutes to respond, but I'll put it in writing and I will respond. But in page 7, that you said the district remains committed to enhance transparency and accessibility, it's nothing but. Is that it?
That's it. Any more public comment?
Can you put the mic closer to him?
Yeah.
Hey, talk, Miss Hattie, I'm gonna drink one too.
Yes.
Comment, as I've said on this board since, the last few months, since I've been a member since December and prior to that, months before that. I have never, as you presented to me, to vote or even discuss the warrant act. So when was that passed? I'd really like to know that answer. I received that notice along with the public. And I've been waiting for the past almost 3 weeks for Lena, the lady, to give me a response on the patient complaint, and she's never followed through. And as far as you guys being transparent, may be transparent to each other, but you are not transparent to the public or myself or anyone else to ask me questions you don't agree with. So shame on all of you. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Sargent, do you have any board comment?
I'm sorry, you're still on public.
Oh, she did say that she was going. Okay, any more public comment?
My name is Dale Lance. I just simply want to comment that there's a lot of prayers being prayed for grace and direction and wisdom for this activity and this meeting and the future next few months. So I just want to reiterate that be assured that there are people who are praying. God bless you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Any more public comment?
Hello, just a quick introduction. My name is Robert Hope Murillo. I am the ASU president of my community college. I'm here to represent and be observing everybody in this room today about the hospital, what's going on today, to give feedback to my fellow students at the Palo Verde College. I fight for their voices, I fight for everything that they want to believe in and make come true. So this is my first time I've been in a town hall meeting. The energy in here is very, I can totally understand why. I have my student trustee with me, Melina, so I'm taking a lot of notes from my colleges, my students, so I'm very interested in what's going to happen today. That's all. Thank you.
Welcome to all of this. Thank you. Any more public comment? Seeing none. We close public comment. Any board comment?
Waiting for an answer from this way.
With respect to the question you posed about a patient, that is going to be discussed in closed session. The patient is entitled to privacy, and I wasn't going to disclose that in violation of HIPAA.
Well, I'm really thrilled to do this. I don't get that. But I've been waiting for you to give a response to me, not to the public. I asked you a direct question and I expected an answer. And you haven't had the courtesy to follow through, even though I'm sure you feel for my question.
I did not bill for your question. However, I had to obtain information and have an investigation conducted internally before I could that with it.
Well, I think 3 weeks is sufficient when we both know what happened here.
I don't believe it was 3 weeks. I believe I received information.
Let's say 2.5.
I received information, I believe.
No, it's not this.
No, I'm not referring to you. I'm asking this tonight. Last Thursday. Okay. Yep, it's on this placed on the agenda.
You could have had the courtesy to point that out also. You didn't take your time to do that.
My apologies.
Courtesy of being yours.
Sorry.
Courtesy does not seem to be your problem.
I apologize.
Sure.
And next board member. Sheila, do you have a board comment?
Can you say it again, Trina, please?
I apologize, not at this time. Thank you.
Closing? I am. So next item on the agenda. Approval of the agenda. Based on the recent filing of Chapter 9 bankruptcy petition and the other urgent matters of the Board of Directors, it is my recommendation we table the Medical Executive Committee report agenda item 5E until a future meeting. In addition, staff recommends tabling item 6A3 minutes for the meeting 7/30/2025 until the October 29th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the agenda tabling item 5E Medical Executive Committee report and agenda item 6A3 meeting 7/30/2025 minutes? And I'll second it.
Vice President Rowell?
Aye.
Director Sarden? Director Sarden?
Aye.
Director Brooks is absent. Director Hudson?
Yeah.
President Garnica?
Aye. Item number 5, reports. Discussion regarding action by the Riverside County Local Agency Formation Commission and the Municipal Service Review. Palo Verde Health District.
Good evening. On September 25th, LATCO conducted a public hearing on the Municipal Services Review. I've asked Ms. Wade to provide a brief update from the meeting.
Yes. So on September 2nd, 2025, Riverside Council LAFCO published its MSR report. Michael Rose and Vanessa Burke, the financial consultant, discussed the findings and recommendations at the September 22nd board meeting. The response of the district provided a brief history of how the district arrived at this fiscal crisis, steps taken to maintain operations, a discussion on how financial assistance would benefit the district, and options contained in the report. On September 25, 2025, LAFCO held its public hearing, and they took 2 votes, 2 motions. The first was to accept the MSR review report and staff recommendations, and that was unanimously passed. The second was to unite people, agencies to discuss the successor agency. There was discussion regarding dissolution of the district, however, no action was taken as that was not on the agenda. So the possible implications of Chapter 9 petition on LAFCO's actions will be discussed in the Chapter 9 update briefly. So since that time, the district has had several discussions with the county chief executive and was very thankful for that. During a conference today, he stated that the cavalry is riding in the district's direction. He wanted everyone to know that partners have been meeting regularly, including the city, the Desert Africa Network, Riverside University Health Systems, IEHB, and others to ensure continued operation, including provision of supplies, possible financial assistance, et cetera, in the short term. So that is the report with respect to the MSR.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board regarding this report from Leo? Tina, do you have any board comment? Tina? Oh,
Ms. Hudson has a question.
Ms. Hudson?
Do you all feel like the Palo Verde Healthcare did well represented at that meeting?
Who's that question for, Ms. Hudson?
It's for one who attended. I certainly did. It was embarrassed,
So you were there?
completely embarrassed.
You were there?
I didn't have to be there, Carolyn. I was watching it.
Oh, I thought you meant all of the board be there.
I was watching it. I said what I asked if the people who attended were proud of the representation they did for the Palo Verde Healthcare District.
Yeah, I was very proud of that.
That explains the problem.
Any more, board comment? Ms. Hudson?
That explains what the problem is.
Yes. Tina?
Yeah, so I did once participating, not participating, I did also watch it. Why? I understand that not all board members can attend because there could be a potential Brown Act violation. And so anyway, I also, just for the record, did see the lab coat presentation.
Thank you. Is, do you have any more comment to that?
Just for everybody's information, I also watched the
You can't hear them.
I also watched the whole thing.
Okay. Is there any, I don't have anything to say, I said my piece, open public comment. Is there anybody that has public comment? Okay, let's see.
Question, why did the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals assign a judge to the Central District?
I believe that was a typographical error. It should have been the United States District Court. That was stated in the first paragraph.
Thank you.
Have you recognized President Burnett?
Yes.
Apologize, let me know. I just wanted to go ahead and answer your question. I'm going to be making that correction tonight after the board meeting. I'll be updating the press release on the website. Thank you for putting that up. Apologize, President. You're fine.
As it pertains to the LAFCO meeting last week, it was very obvious that the chair and the entire commission were quite displeased with the entire ongoings. They did not receive the hospital's response to the MSR until the evening before. And therefore, the commissioners did not have any time to review that response. So they didn't even have it because it was not put in time, which is no surprise. The other thing, as pointed out by Ms. Coates, is that they wholeheartedly affirmed the lack of trust that the community has in this healthcare district. And it's a very unfortunate thing for 7 commissioners and the executive officer and the CEO of our entire county, which also includes 2 board of supervisors members and an alternate board of supervisor member. So we're talking mayors, board of supervisors, executive people with many years of experience that are completely displeased with our district. I wanted to affirm something that Ms. Wade had stated prior, that there had been no negotiations with regard to our hospital. Is that correct? We have it on video, so I'm hoping she's gonna say yes.
Negotiations, I have indication.
You have not, but has anybody from the district?
Negotiations, status.
Okay, all right. So in the MSR response, why you indicate that there was a purchase offer that was not a sufficient price. That's in item 8A. And so that would tell me that there was some kind of negotiation going, because there had to have been a discussion with regard to the purchase offer, and then somebody rejected it, which would be a negotiation. And I have to ask if that had anything to do with the July 11th teleconference with Dr. Vo and Alex Cardenas. So, and that was Ms. Anaya and Mr. Rose conducting that teleconference with them. So that's my question. And again, I feel really bad for the commissioners and how displeased they were with our, pretty much our representation of our community. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will now close public comment. Is there any board comment? Okay, that's it.
Yes, I'm curious, because in the last staff report, we mentioned, as Leslie just did, that there was an offer that was presented and rejected. Who's been authorized to present or to reject?
I don't believe, this is Lena Wade, I don't believe it was rejected. I believe there was a request for additional information so it could be communicated to the board.
Has it been run?
I don't believe I've seen the additional information. There was no information regarding the debt of the district. It wasn't addressed, and so we needed to have that before we could present it for a complete proposal.
So it is your voicing the opinion that there has been no one who's negotiated on behalf of the Palo Verde Healthcare District in any fashion to sell, lease, or get rid of the hospital.
I have not been involved in any negotiations.
Has Amber Knight?
There has been interest, Sandy, which I told you before. And quite truthfully, the last conversation I had with them, they were not interested due to all of the drama. So if they come forward again, then I'll let you know.
Well, I'm gonna ask this once again. You and Michael have not met with anyone who's negotiating on the hospital.
You mean like on a sale or a buy or whatever?
Yes.
No. They came and visited a couple of times to look at the hospital.
And if I produced a document and audio that disputed that, do you mind my that?
You know, whatever you want to do is great, Sandy. They have gone back and forth. That's all I can tell you. I think there was something that was forwarded to Lena, but we haven't had a chance to look at it. All of this other has taken precedent.
I'm going to remind you and Lena, Michael also, that this board is elected. It is not your decision to make to turn down an offer or to not present it. They need to be presented to the elected board.
Exactly. Yeah. Let her know. I don't think it's at that point yet.
It's not responsible to the MSR, so
Okay, audience, please, let Ms. Amaya and Ms. Hudson have this conversation.
Thank you.
Was that any question, Ms. Hudson? Was that?
It is a question, and I would like the opportunity at the next meeting to present something to rebut her answer.
There is a letter that they sent, and it was forwarded to the attorney about a week ago that had several options, but I talked to one of the representatives who said, we're not interested. It's too much drama along the lines. Now, if they reverse that, we'll bring it forward.
Okay, so you're saying there has been nothing standardized, there has been nothing, recorded, and there has been no conversations that should have been brought forward.
I don't think so, Sandy. I don't think so. Not at this point.
Thank you for your time.
Next board member, Ms. Sargent, do you have any board comments?
Community recognized, please.
Yes, you may.
If everyone's done, I don't want to interrupt. With respect to, the delay from the district with the, LAFCO, response in terms of delay, I think that was discussed, if my memory serves me correct, at the LAFCO, meeting. And it was discussed, and Lena, I recall explaining why that wasn't sent in timely. It was because it was not a board quorum. Is that correct, Lena?
But Joanna was attempting to to get a quorum, and so this was the meeting that had been available to discuss the MSR.
Correct. Okay, for the, in preparation for the meeting. So it wasn't addressed because there wasn't a quorum. Is that correct?
Right, there was an available date on September 22nd, and so that date was selected.
And, okay, that's for the delay. I just wanted that on the record. Also on the record, I just want to state that I have not been in any discussion, negotiations, or anything with anyone in terms of the sale of the hospital lease or any of that. And before that could ever move forward, that would definitely have to be brought before the board. Of course. So I just wanted to state that for the record. I was not involved in any negotiations. What was it that stated July 11th? And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Rosen? I don't need it. Okay, so we will now close public comment and board comments. Okay, next item is chapter 9 update. So I will read my statement first and then Michael. Chapter 9 filing completed. Our board of directors authorized the filing of Chapter 9 bankruptcy on behalf of the hospital, which occurred yesterday, to enable us to stabilize operations under a court-approved restructuring and sustainability plan. Rural communities across the country are confronting similar realities, and our district is no exception. What matters now is moving forward and constructively with our expert consultants, community partners, public officials, and staff to facilitate local access to care. For months, we have sounded the alarm and pursued every practical avenue for short-term bridge funding from lenders, the county, the state of California, and federal partners to avoid Chapter 9 bankruptcy. Those funds have not materialized. With mounting pressure, growing debts, and no sign of immediate relief, seeking the protection of the bankruptcy court is the only responsible way to complete a reorganization plan focused on long-term viability. This step is necessary to provide us with the protection and stability of the federal courts. The filing does not mean that the hospital and the clinic are closed. We will continue to provide medical care in the community with the resources that we have and have been able to preserve. As further adjustments to operations are made, if any, we will communicate with those who are directly affected first. This isn't the end, it's a new start. This situation did not happen overnight. It takes years of navigating significant challenges for a public agency like ours to reach this point. Now we are taking decisive action to address the underlying financial issues so that the hospital can be put back on the right path. We will organize a sustainability plan through the Chapter 9 process and communicate transparently with the community and key stakeholders as milestones are reached. At the same time, we cannot make promises or assurances about specific outcomes at this point. Chapter 9 bankruptcy is rare, and that is because it is, and should be used as a last resort. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank our employees, physicians, specialists, and nurses for their continued dedication and service. They have borne the brunt of this restructuring, yet they still want to come to work to provide medical services to our community, which they believe in, and so do we. We also thank our many residents who have offered their patience and support, and we thank you. Next, we have Michael Rose.
On September 30th, yesterday, the district filed a Chapter 9 bankruptcy petition in U.S. Bankruptcy Court. A bankruptcy judge was appointed to the case. We have Ed Hayes, bankruptcy counsel for the district, with Marshak Hayes Wood, to present to the board and the community about what to expect with this Chapter 9 filing.
Are there any questions from the board? Would we like to now open it for public comment? Oh,
And it's to speak.
oh, okay, okay.
I can provide a quick
Oh,
update. Can everybody hear me clearly?
No, Ed, you're a little closer.
I'll try to speak up. Is that better?
Okay, just a minute, let us. Let's get you loud and clear.
Yeah, that is on. That's the loudest I can make it.
That's the
you have-
loudest. Let me take the headset off. It helps me hear. It's hard to hear when people are addressing, but let me just go with the regular microphone on the computer. Give me a second.
That's a bit better, Ed. I think it's.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Put your earplugs back in, because we fixed it back here over here, in our place.
I believe so, right?
Yeah, it was set in the wrong place.
Okay.
I'm speaking loud.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, we're all good now. Okay. First, there was, I think the biggest thing to stress is that the bankruptcy filing does not equate to the hospital closing. The bankruptcy filing is an effort by the district to keep the hospital open. The bankruptcy gives the district an opportunity to try to reorganize its finances and its debts that it owes to various different creditors. There are a lot of creditor claims that are out there, and the district simply does not have enough money to pay all of those creditors in full. One of the things that a bankruptcy can do is provide for a sale, if you will, of the operating hospital to a new entity, whether it's a private healthcare operator, whether it's a different governmental agency. The bankruptcy court has the ability under United States law to transition assets from the entity in bankruptcy to a buyer, if you will, that is free and clear of the previous creditor claims. That allows the the hospital itself to remain operating and going forward, remain available to the residents in this district. So one of the things that happens in bankruptcy is the district will be looking for and soliciting potential successors. That is one option. The district will also be looking for additional revenue and finances. That's the process that the district has been undertaking for the last several months. And as you've already heard, that did not materialize at the point at which the district had to seek the bankruptcy protection because of where the cash reserves were dwindling to. So the purpose of the bankruptcy is not to close the hospital. The purpose of the bankruptcy is to help facilitate keeping the hospital open. The bankruptcy court will conduct hearings from time to time and make rulings from time to time. We have contacted the bankruptcy court, and I think that the gentleman on the front row had asked a question about how the bankruptcy judge is selected or identified. Unlike a regular bankruptcy where the judge is randomly appointed by the bankruptcy court, in the event of a Chapter 9 that applies to governmental agencies that file bankruptcy, in Chapter 9s, the Court of Appeals, the chief judge of the Court of Appeals, which is one step below the US Supreme Court, designates and gets the final say on who the judge will be. And I think it's because they want to make sure that the judge has the experience and the knowledge to handle a potentially more complicated case. The judge assigned to this particular case is the Honorable Scott Yoon, last name spelled Y-U-N. He's a judge who sits in Riverside at the Federal Bankruptcy Court building. He has presided over a previous Chapter 9, and before he was a judge, he worked at a very prestigious bankruptcy firm that handled very large-scale, well-known bankruptcies, like when May Company filed bankruptcy in the past. So he's a very, very smart person, very knowledgeable person. There is going to be an initial hearing in the bankruptcy court next Wednesday afternoon on October the 8th at 1:30 p.m. That'll be an opportunity for the judge to hear about the district and its problems. And we will be asking the court to set a deadline by which anybody who objects to the bankruptcy proceeding, believing that the bankruptcy is, for example, not actually under fiscal emergency, there will be a deadline for people to file those kinds of challenges. If nobody files, or if somebody files such an objection and the court overrules it, finding that the district does have a fiscal emergency, then the bankruptcy will proceed. And again, the purpose of the bankruptcy is to look for a way to keep the hospital open and to reorganize the debts that it owes to various different companies and people right now. I think at the last meeting, a lot of you were there. There are certain priorities in bankruptcy, and wage claimants up to a certain amount of money, it's like little over $17,000, get priority, meaning they'll get paid before some other creditor that doesn't have priority. So there's a lot of protection built into the system for the employees to continue to do work because their chances of getting paid are maximized. So again, in summary, the process will be proceeding. There'll be a court hearing next Wednesday. I'm sure there will be further board meetings, press releases, newspaper articles. Me and the attorney at my firm, my senior counsel, Teen Ho Mang, have been on a number of these communications with the county CEO. We've actively been involved with the board and Michael Rose. And so we're here to try to help in this process. And that's the summary of Chapter 9 for today.
Thank you. Thank you. So are there any board questions? Are there any questions from the board regarding this presentation Ms. Sargent?
Yeah, thank you. He indicated there was a court hearing next Wednesday, October 8th. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the time.
1:30 PM.
Where's the location?
The location is the Federal Bankruptcy Court building in Riverside, and I can find the address quickly. It's near the county offices. It is 3420 12th Street in Riverside, 3420 12th Street in Riverside. And the court, I believe, just to clarify.
Katrina, hold on 1 second. He's still answering your question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think we both started talking at the same time. It's okay. I just wanted to add one thing, that the issue that will be before the court that day, beyond the judge getting an ability to ask us questions about the case, will be, we will ask the court to select a deadline for objections to eligibility. That deadline will likely be, probably at least 60 days after the hearing, but we will ask the court to pick a deadline. The court will be the one who picks it, and then we'll wait and see if anybody objects, challenging that the district doesn't have the financial challenges that it does have, and then the bankruptcy proceeds from there.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hudson, any questions?
Can I ask President Garnica?
Yes.
Who will be attending in terms of representing the district besides the council?
And I didn't hear that question.
The question is, who besides myself or someone at my firm will be attending?
I think it's okay. It's Ed and or Mr. Zhang, and is there anybody? Michael Rose is attending on behalf of the district.
Did you hear that, Ms. Sargent?
Yes, so just council and Michael Rose would, excuse me, will Vanessa or the financial consultants that have been very involved in this, will they be available if the judge has questions?
Yes, I could be available
Okay.
if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Ms.
I'll
Rowe?
leave that up to Ed.
I don't have any questions. So now we're open it to public comment.
Name's Mr. Gove. That hearing could probably be Zoom and nobody's going to be able to talk to the judge. Judges are going to listen to the word you have to say. If you don't submit a friend of the court brief or a brief to the court, you're out. This is a hearing. It's not a trial. You mentioned financial challenge. Obviously, it's a financial challenge, but if the local folks provide a friend of the court brief, and it can just be something set up with your comments, the judge can also put a trustee in there and manage this thing and get rid of all the riprap that's going on. When an offer's submitted, no matter if it's a roll of toilet paper, it should have been presented to every board member. The city made a vote to close this whole board down and get rid of it because of the shenanigans going on. I directed to the grand jury when they were going over the city here, and I went to the attorney general to have them try to take over the city of Blythe to straighten it up, and they just kind of laughed about this place. But anyway, the same's happened with your hospital. You need to liquidate it. You need to get somebody else out in here, and the people are going to have to do that because I'm sure they put up $25,000 to $50,000 for an attorney to go in to start this, and they're gonna milk it for every penny they can. And you need a trustee. The people need to send letters to the judge and have a trustee get in there. They will look at all the paperwork and all the shenanigans, and they won't play games for favoritism or anything else, but, you won't get any questions into here. It'll be a waste of your time to drive there, but you can submit a document right away, electronically, for into the court read. It doesn't have to be in a legal format, just double space it. 12 pitch, New Times Roman, and state what your concerns are, not what you think, but what your concerns are about your community, and the judge will act. This judge is obviously a professional, and he's your best helper to get this hospital working, and it's gonna have to be sold. It's gonna have to be liquidated. And how much more money you go into debt, you're just gonna hurt things more.
Any more comment?
Lena, let me respond if I can real quick to the last public comment. Letters to the judge is probably not the most accurate way to phrase it. Any communication has to be filed with the clerk of the bankruptcy court, and then everybody will get a copy of it, but you don't just write a letter to the judge that other people don't get copies of. So I wanted to clarify that in case anybody wants to file something with the court. That's the proper procedure. And second, unlike a non-Chapter 9 bankruptcy, there is no possibility for a trustee to take over a governmental entity debtor like the district in this case.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ms. Garnica. Leslie Jessup Watkins. Mr. Hayes, I have one question. One of your very first statements was that during the bankruptcy, one of the first items of business would be to seek a successor agency. And I believe LAFCO asked the County of Riverside to take that position last week. So how does that meld together? How does this bankruptcy filing meld with what LAFCO is directing the county to do?
We spoke with the county CEO today, and a similar discussion on a similar topic came up. And in short, the parties, both the district on the one hand and the county on the other hand, have promised open communication with each other. And it was discussed whether the county would be able to take over operations in whole or in part, or provide other assistance to keep the hospital open. So the parties are discussing, and I think Ms. Wade mentioned earlier that the county CEO's comment was the cavalry is on its way and nothing has been promised yet, but we are hoping and to get assistance from the county and its various different agencies to be able to keep the hospital open.
Thank you. My second question with regard to the Chapter 9 bankruptcy has to do with the question about our Medicare funds and whether or not we've received any of those yet. The 17 million, I think there was like 8 or 10 million Medicare billings that were going out last Monday, give or take. So I was wondering where we're at on that. Okay. Financial report. The question that I have as it pertains to the bankruptcy is what happens with the funds now that we have the federal government shut down?
And that's about that means.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any more comment?
I actually want to go beyond that. So even though it's going to be in the next report, it pertains to the bankruptcy and the filings and the assets and all of that. So if we do not, as a matter of course, what happens when the federal government gets shut down is that we typically, not always, but typically will lose our Medicare funding. So what is the plan within the bankruptcy proceeding with regard to that? And that's this agenda item.
Controlling Medicare to pay or not pay is probably outside of our ability to control it. It is a concern with the government shutdown. It was something discussed with the county today, and we're going to be closely monitoring that situation and hoping for something that doesn't result in prolonged delays.
So how do we keep the doors open? Because that was the number one item for billing that needed to be collected.
Every potential avenue for keeping the doors open is being pursued, including getting assistance from the county as a stopgap measure. And even beyond funding for things like payroll, there's been discussions about having supplies provided, non-cash assistance as well. So the district is doing everything in its power to try to keep the doors open and work with the interested parties who all want to see the hospital remain open.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. One last item I'd like to do, Madam Chair, is I'd like to recognize the CEO from La Paz Regional Hospital here. He's Z, that's here in the third row. He is a strong supporter of this community, and he and his staff all are, and they run an exceptional facility there. And we truly appreciate all of their support and everything that they're trying to do to help us close some of our gaps. So thank you, Z.
And more public comment?
I have a question on, E-Coast filing. I have a question on the, chapter 9 filing. We've already given him his business, $50,000. They've already gone through about 25,000 of it. Where are we going to get the balance to file and pay for this bankruptcy? Because of the last meeting, he said it would be 6 digits possibly. So we're talking $200,000 or $300,000, and we can't even. We have what, 5 days left in our money? Where are we going to get money to pay that attorney? We know they're going to get their money before we get ours. So my question is, do you guys know that money's coming in somewhere that we haven't been told about? Is there an answer how we're going to pay for it? Could you guys just answer one question once in a while? We're so frustrated.
Next item is pertaining to money.
That's all you have to say. Thank you.
Next item. Any more public comment? Okay, close public comment. Are there any comments from the board? Ms. Harden, any comment?
Information.
Okay. Ms. Hudson, any comment?
Yes, I would say this, if you're at the stage of filing bankruptcy, it takes the time to be fair, answer these people's questions.
Ms. Hudson, you're breaking up. We need to do full.
Okay, well, let me start again. Can you hear?
Okay.
I think if you're at the stage where you follow bankruptcy, it's the time to be forthcoming and to be honest with the public who owns this hospital. You're not being honest with the board and you're not being honest with them. And we all recognize that. So please, just for decency's sake, tell these people the truth.
Was that the public comment? I mean, was that the board comment, Ms. Hudson?
That was my word comment, and I would like for it to be repeated in its entirety in the minutes.
Ms. Brown, you have any board comment? I don't either. Next item on the agenda, financial report. Mr. Michael Rose.
All right, the fiscal year 2024-2025 draft unaudited financial statements were prepared and submitted to CHAFA as part of the loan covenants for the distressed hospital loan program. I will update you on these and other finance-related matters, then turn it over to Ms. Vanessa Burke for a presentation on the accounts receivable balance, which is certainly getting a lot of attention, but it is a very important topic to discuss through today. So right now, we are doing everything we can to keep the doors open and maintain operations. As I stated to LAFCO last week, the district has essentially been living paycheck to paycheck for 4 months since May. In this, we are working actively with the county to work to bridge the gap to maintain operations in the given cash flow crunch. We currently have 5.75 days of cash on hand, which is approximately $430,000 in unrestricted available cash. For reference, a 2-week payroll runs approximately $250,000. So right now it's enough cash to cover a payroll, and we did process payroll today. The funds were impounded for the period ended last Saturday. However, this is a very tight financial situation that we continue to monitor very closely. Next item is the fiscal year 2023, or I'm sorry, 2022, 2023 audits are nearing completion. After being paused to focus on daily operations of the hospital, work resumed, and with this, as I'll lead into my finance report with the financial statements, there are a number of items that we are anticipating will be adjusted and restated for fiscal year 23. So of our 2 financial statements that are presented, the income statement and the balance sheet. The balance sheet is a period, it's a point in time. So it's a snapshot, basically. This is the bank balance as of today. So it depends on the items previously presented on that running tally to be calculated correctly. With that, the audits being completed and now being more than 2 years backdated, it makes it very difficult to present in final form. And I know I've mentioned this many times in the past several months, and the issues we've had with financial statement auditors in the past. So right now, again, the financial statements are presented draft, unaudited, because we are anticipating adjustments to these. So first, I would like to turn to the balance sheet. As I mentioned, this is really a snapshot in time. With this, it is management's belief that inventory, prepaid expenses, capital assets, lease payables, and net position will likely be adjusted to accurately reflect the financial situation of the district. This has been the topic of many conversations with the financial statement auditors. So I would expect that once the 23 and 24 audits are completed, for 25 to end up being adjusted from its current status. However, in here, I do like to draw your attention to the first line, cash and cash equivalents. And we see some yo-yos for the fiscal year 24-25. Starting out the fiscal year at 6.3 million, we see the cash dropping very rapidly. This is mostly due to the Cerner implementation using the distressed hospital loan funds. Then it drops down to $1.8 million in December 2024 to only jump up again in January because of the IGT funds. This is one-time funds. This is not recurring, although the district can participate annually. This is not from cash from operations. So this cash really, should be counted as one time. And we see that cash continue to dwindle throughout the fiscal year, trying to maintain fiscal operations. With this, the accounts receivable balance, I also believe, will be adjusted. There was a significant effort to reconcile the old Allscripts data for fiscal year 22-23. Of course, with our system limitations, it led to difficulties in reconciling. But I apologize. We also expect the AR balance to be different in the financial statement presentation. Ms. Burke will talk a lot more extensively as I conclude my part of the presentation. With this, I'd like to turn over to the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, or income statement. fiscal year 24-25, quarter 4, which is April or June of 25, the district had a change in net position of negative $2.1 million. With this, the year ended at a net loss of about $3.2 million estimated. Unfortunately, all reserves have been exhausted. There is nothing else to absorb losses for the district, and this is certainly why the district is in its financial situation. In my staff report, I said that we are now in what we would call in business terms or for profit, negative equity or negative net position, meaning that the district owes more money than the assets that it actually owns, which really is an indicator of financial difficulty in continuing operations in the long term. Also in here, we have the financial statement ratios. The days cash on hand, I think, reflects what I mentioned earlier, where we start off the year with a little over $6 million in cash. By the time we get to the end of December, we're down to 24 days of cash. Jumps up again because of the IGT funds, and then at the end of the fiscal year drops down to 26 days of cash. And with this, Q4, of course, was after the line of credit had been pulled and the IGT funds had been exhausted and the 60-day plan had been implemented. So back on the Saturday meeting we had on June 6th, 2025, we had approximately 14 days of cash on hand. Today, of course, with just under 6 days of cash, we have managed to survive, as I mentioned, paycheck to paycheck. However, this is no longer sustainable as reflected in the financial statement. So although I anticipate adjustments, particularly to the balance sheet items with the completion of the audits, our financials really reflect that the district is in Chapter 9 bankruptcy. The funds have been exhausted. The expenses have outweighed revenue many times in the last several months, in the last several years. I mentioned earlier on a call that the fiscal year 22 audit, which was the last year of the financial statement audit, it was apparent that the district was surviving on one-time funds, particularly from COVID. And unfortunately, this trend has continued. So with these financial statement presentations, I say, there's a reason we're in Chapter 9 bankruptcy. We have really exhausted every option. We continue to seek the funds to keep the hospital open. I will say with Ms. Burke's presentation, that will hopefully answer at least the receivables portion of this. I do know that there's approximately $70,000 that, depending on what happens with Medicare, will impact on its ability to come in from a non-operating revenue source. My understanding is the district had agreed to under a prior CFO, a contract to work to recoup some funds due to COVID, netting about $70,000. And then we have an IGT, which the board approved, I believe, in August. I have been told that we should expect those funds likely at the end of the month, around $250,000. But right now, we have exhausted every option, for general operations. And so now this is where we continue to work with the county to explore our options. And we're very grateful for the work of the CEO of the county, both in cash and non-cash options. However, as was mentioned many times, cavalry is on its way, but not here yet. Then I will turn it over to Ms. Burke to discuss accounts receivable.
Good evening, President of the Board, Board of Directors, members of the community, our esteemed guests that are online. I'm Vanessa Burke with Burke Consulting Group. I've been assisting the district since late last fall. And I know everybody has been anxious to see the accounts receivable information. So in terms of this presentation, the date at which we're presenting the accounts receivable is as of September 22nd, 2025. We get a report periodically from our third-party administrator. There's always a lot of activity going on in claims and accounts receivable and collections, but there's always kind of a slight lag in that data. because it takes time to post and get it to the patient accounts, et cetera. So forgive me that it isn't as of today, but and there was a lot of activity in the last week that we'll probably be updating here in the next day or so, and I'll be getting a new report towards the end of the week. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and go to the next slide. So I know I presented on revenue multiple times back when we were doing the financial forecast, as well as when we were looking at the budget. And I thought I would just give a brief revenue overview for the district itself, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory that's here in the room, or for those that have not heard this before, to let you know where the district receives its revenue from. The district itself derives, I'd say, between 65 to 75% of its revenue, primarily from providing medical services to the city of Blythe, the surrounding communities, and including those that are incarcerated in Ironwood Prison. There are other small buckets of things that it was collecting in terms of cafeteria, but some of that has changed since we implemented the 60-day plan. But for all intents and purposes, the big bulk of collection is really coming from that patient service revenue. And we talked in a prior presentation about gross charges and net patient service revenue. And that's a really important concept, which you're going to see as I go through these slides. Net patient service revenue is really the amount that the hospital, the district actually receives from all of its payer sources. And it has many. That would include Medicare, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, federal, state, and local government programs, commercial insurance payers, California Department of Corrections, which is called Correct Care, and again, self-pay patient revenue, because we do have patients that come in and do self-pay for their medical care. But in general, there is a net patient service revenue concept that you need to be aware of. In terms of all of the payers that the district has, Medicare represents the largest portion of net patient care revenue. And that's really important to understand, followed by Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and Medicaid HMO. That whole bucket together represents about 65.7% of all gross charges for the district itself. The reason I say Medicare represents the largest portion of patient care revenue, it represents the largest of the net patient care revenue, but Medi-Cal, Medicaid represents the largest gross charges. So, but their rate at payment is much lower than Medicare. So ultimately, you've got to look at that mix when you're evaluating revenue. The remaining balance of the commercial and other insurers and other payment sources, such as Correct Care or the VA or workers' comp type claims that come in, Blue Cross represents the largest insurer that the district has, and that's pretty common across the country. But Blue Cross is the most significant at about 13.1% of gross charges. Now, outside of patient revenue, net patient service revenue, other revenue that the district collects, which won't be part of this presentation, but I've talked about it in our prior budget discussions and in our quarterly updates and in the financial disclosures that we've done related to the financial condition of the district, is that the district does collect property taxes from the county of Riverside. They also collect some small amounts of investment income, and then they collect, as Michael was just talking about, other one-time revenues, which consist of the Intergovernmental Transfer Program, the QAPI program, and then any other type of sort of offshoot revenue that they might collect, like lease revenue. But again, that is not a really significant bucket of revenue to the hospital. I think the property taxes average around, just in terms of when you see these next set of numbers, it's around 250, a little bit more than $250,000 in revenue. Hospital and clinic is included in this gross charges, and I'm going to do this for a presentation period or an accounting period of October 1 through September 22nd, which is the most recent available, totaled $55.7 million. I know there's been a lot of talk about the clinic. The clinic revenue for that same period is $598,000 in gross charges, or really only 1% of the total. the reason October 1 is significant is because that is when the Oracle Cerner system that was implemented in record time went live. So it went live on October 1st. And at the same time, during a transition of a chief financial officer, the district transitioned to GEBS, which is a third-party administrator, third-party revenue cycle administrator, in 2024. So the period of data that I'm going to be giving you is the Cerner system. It's the new data, the new system that we're able to generate reports out of, give you information. That's what we're using to bill our patients currently. GEBS and the district's revenue cycle manager, they work in tandem as part of this new process to process and to collect claims for the district. It's a two-party process. They have responsibility. The district has responsibility. They've all been working very hard to get this implementation done, fix any bugs, correct anything that needed to be corrected. And as anybody knows in this group, when systems go live, there's always a learning curve, right? We're always starting over. It's a brand new system. We're trying to learn it, get used to it. So this team has been working very hard since October 1 to do that. GEBS is compensated as a third-party administrator to process and collect on those claims. They're compensated as a percentage of claims paid, including any legacy system claims that they've been having to track and manage through the old billing system where there was an old accounts receivable. So I'm going to go into some numbers, which I think are probably going to be pretty small for you all, but please let me know if you guys can try to make that bigger. I will start from left to right. What I'm presenting here is all charges, revenue, and outstanding AR by payer type. So we talked about numbers earlier. Gross charges grand total is 54.4 million. I might have a slight difference on this one than what I had in the bullet point, but this is the most up-to-date numbers, is 54.4 million. We have an adjustments column, which I'll talk about shortly. We have a payments column, which totals 8.9 million, and we have a net balance column of 20.8 million. The total of all claims data here is between that go live date and September 22nd. This includes all open and closed claims. Of these numbers that you see here, 27.4% is Medicare and 38.4% is Medicaid, Medi-Cal. But again, you'll see on the next slide where I show you closed claims, they have a lower payer rate. And then go back to that prior slide, 13.2% of the total gross charges is Blue Cross. The balance that you have there, 21% to the full 100%, is really the other insurance, correct care, the Veterans Administration, workers' comp, and the self-pay category. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go next into revenue and outstanding AR by payer. And you'll see here that the payment column of 5.6 million is slightly different than the payment on the other one. And that is because we are receiving payments on some claims that are still open, but they may still be being processed. And I'm going to explain that oftentimes a claim can hit Medicare and it can have a supplemental insurance. So you can be a Medicare recipient and then also hold a supplemental insurance plan that has to be billed to two different insurers. It's very complicated. And then also there's a self-pay category. So I think you'll all be somewhat familiar with this on your own medical claims where you receive an explanation of benefits and you see that they bill one insurance, they bill the supplemental, they do the contractual adjustment, and then it ends up with the net amount that you as a patient have to pay. So it's very much following that same path. So again, here, these are the open claims outstanding as of September 22nd, all claims incurred, but these are outstanding, but these are closed. So we've got 25.3 million in almost 25.4 million in closed claims. Total adjustments, meaning contractual adjustments or adjustments where there may be a denied charge, is 19.7 million. Payments are 5.7 million. And over on the right-hand side, I derive the percentage of payment to gross charge. And that is what we call our contractual adjustment. So whether the adjustment is contractual or something got denied because it wasn't a covered charge or something like that, it's going to hit in that adjustment column. But you can see overall for the district, their contractual adjustment rate is 22.4%. So even though we have this huge bucket of $54 million in claims, we're only going to collect about 22.4% of them. And if you go back to my earlier presentations on the financial forecast, we've been using between 20 and 25%. So when I look at just the closed claim data for the district, we're right in that ballpark. 20% would be more conservative, 25 being more liberal. Let's see if I covered everything I wanted to see that. Overall, you're going to see that the payer rate, I wanted to point out the Medicaid. So even though you can see Medicaid 1, 2, 3, 4, third, fourth, and fifth lines in, right? You got Medicaid and Medi-Cal are larger than Medicare. You'll see that Medicare has a much higher payer rate at 45.9% for Medicare. But then the HMO, the Medicare Advantage, which everybody's kind of getting shifted into, is really only paying at 28.5%. Whereas if you look at Medicaid, that big bucket of 14.4 million, any Medicaid recipient, which we know is going to be reduced by about 20% under the big beautiful bill, they're only getting paid at about 9.9%. Medi-Cal is paying at about 20.8%. Medicaid paying at 7.8%. So even we have a big population of patients that are coming to us with Medicaid, but the ultimate outcome is we're only getting paid 7.8 cents on the dollar or 9.9 cents on the dollar or 20 cents on the dollar. Whereas if you look at the top line, where we have people with commercial insurance at Blue Cross, it's getting paid at 55 cents on the dollar. But overall, when you look at the total blended component, it's 22.4%. Next slide, please. So on this slide, using the same payor list that you just saw, these are the total open claims. So we have gross charges at 30.3 million, which equal plus the closed equal up to the total of 54. We have our contractual adjustments for those that have been processed. Some are in process, some are still open. These are all open claims. So they're in various stages of the billing cycle, from billing to collection to denial to line item adjustments. That there's a whole host, and we should have some grace for those that process medical claims because it's very complicated. Payments are 3.4 million, leaving a net balance of accounts receivable of about 20.8 million. We had the question earlier about Medicare. Yes, it is around 9.3 million and 1.4 million combined between Medicare Advantage. That's nearly half of the total. And we are working those claims. The federal government shutdown doesn't mean that everybody goes home. They still stay and they have to work. And we still have to process claims. These claims are in. It's not like they're not going to get processed because somebody isn't there. They will continue to have employees that work and come to work. And I would anticipate they're not going to be in a stalemate much longer. Usually they don't last longer than the next round of meetings or next 2 rounds of meetings, at least in my history of being alive, from what I've seen. And again, a lot of these will already be in the payment cycle. So I don't anticipate that the shutdown is it may cause some delays, but not a substantial delay. So, looking at this number of 20.8 million, I think I talked about this at the last meeting. We had the number. And I said, if you take a fourth of it, 25% is about what we might collect. But now using that 22.4%, it's probably closer to about 4.7 million. It could be higher if I looked at each bucket individually and that collection rate. But we're trying to be conservative in our numbers here, in terms of, I think we were a little aggressive in the past. And so we want to be conservative so that we ensure that we know we're going to collect these claims, and that they're going to come in the door, and that we don't have a processing problem or something like that, or that could cause an issue. We don't believe that we do at this time, after having looked at the data. Next slide is our aging of accounts receivable. This is our aging by bucket. I didn't give you all the details and the nuances of it. I just wanted to mainly show that this spread, you can see, every bucket basically has about somewhere between 6 to 10%. Some of them are a little lower, like the ones that are way far out, 331 days. But, we're averaging somewhere at about 10% of the total amount outstanding is sitting in every single bucket. That's how active claims processing is. So, we know cash is going to keep coming in, and we're living paycheck to paycheck, and we see we've got this backlog, and as it clears off, and then we put up more numbers for the next month. And, that is how we're supposed to bill and collect. We would like to see some of the older buckets clear faster. I think with the system implementation, as well as, we had to go live of October 1. It took time to kind of work through those kinks in that process. One other piece of this pie that you need to look at is that in March of 2025, there was a cyber incident, and that suspended the district's ability to bill claims for a period of about 45 days. And you can kind of see that in the data. If you look right around the 151 over on the right-hand side, 151, 180 days, those percentages are low. You would expect those to be a little higher, as it's aging out. But we do have a relatively decent spread around the pie. But I did look at the actual detailed data. So in March, we saw that claims dropped to about 3.9 million gross charges. And in April and May, those claims totaled around 5 million and 4.8 million respectively. And then after that, it leveled back off to about the normal bucket. So in that April-May timeframe, you can see that catch up was starting to happen with the billing because the system was down. The other piece, the not aged bucket, is around 19%. We'd like to see that percentage get a lot smaller. When I say not aged, that means it hasn't gone into a final claim. It's in the process of being billed. It's being set up. It's collecting documents. It's collecting radiology scans, pharmacy dates, doctor's notes. There's a whole host of issues that go into that not aged bucket where we're working with internally within the hospital, as well as the billers looking at the claim and saying, wait, I can't final bill this because I need X, Y, and Z. So that's really where the team focuses. A lot of its attention is on that not aged bucket and bringing that down. So we look at that pretty much on a weekly basis. And so with that, I think that completes my prepared remarks on aging of accounts receivable and the makeup of it. And go to the last slide, and the board may have comments, questions.
Are there any board comments? We'll start off with Ms. Sutton. Yes, thank you, Vanessa. I have a question regarding the, you indicated, Vanessa, there's 28 million, about 25% of that, maybe a little less, you project would be collected, and that would be 4.7 million.
Yes.
What time frame are we looking at in terms of the $28 million and the recovery of, or collections on the, the 25%, which would be 4.7 million in collections for the hospital? What time frame is this?
What time frame?
Yes.
You mean how soon can it be collected?
No. The 20.8 million
Uh-huh.
Was that from fiscal year to fiscal year, or that's what I'm asking, what time frame?
That's since we went go live, that's all Cerner data, go live to current,
Okay,
to
so
9/22.
October 1st, 2024.
24. Yeah. There were
Okay.
some small claims in September that went through as a sort of a test, but I mean, they were real claims, but we processed a very few live claims. If I showed you the number, it's like $6,800.
Okay, and I apologize if I'm asking a repetitive question. I just wanted clarification. So from October 1st of 2024 to current, it was, the amount was 4.7 million. How much-
20.8 million.
I'm sorry.
20.8 million is currently the net outstanding AR for that period of open claims.
Correct, but you indicated that we would only collect probably 25%.
Yeah, 22.4% using the close claim statistics for the year.
Okay, got it. And 25% is best practice? Or
Yeah,
is
I just use that as a rough estimate when I'm looking at the numbers, but 22.4% is the actual close claim payment ratio.
Okay.
So if you apply that,
Election possibility of $4.7 million.
on that out, that is correct.
Okay, because when people hear 20.8 million, I think it's very confusing, because it sounds like we have a lot of money out there. So I just wanted to be clear on that, what the actual amount in reality is that is possible in terms of collection for the hospital.
Yeah, and thanks for that clarification. That is how the industry, that's how industry billing works for hospitals, physician groups, dentists, doctors, specialists, you name it. It is all billed. There is a gross charge schedule, but there are write downs or adjustments to that schedule, contractual adjustments, because you enter into a contract with the payor to pay at a certain rate.
See.
You still have another question to start, or?
I was just looking over my, because I was taking on. I apologize, I'm just trying to go back and look here. This following the financial report thing.
Want me to come back to you? I'm sorry.
I want to circle back around with Michael. I'm trying to find the notes here. Does any of the other board members have a question while I'm looking for my question I have here? Because I've got like 7 pages in the notes.
Ms. Hudson, do you have any questions?
I have a statement I'd like to make.
Okay.
Oh, I have found that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I find Vanessa to be very confident. I'm very want to be there within bankruptcy. Well, should have,
Ms. Hudson,
it's, yes.
because then you're breaking out again.
Okay, let's start over. Well, I appreciate the fact that Vanessa has been very forthcoming. I think she's quite qualified. I'm curious why she's still on the payroll when we should be using our CFO, Michael Rhodes, to do all these things instead of paying a consultant. And I find it rather interesting that the Blythe PD also there being paid when you guys are so broke. If you wonder what your problem is, look around. Thank you.
Ms. Sarkis, did you find your questions?
Yeah, you had indicated when you were speaking in terms of about gifts, you indicated an amount of $70,000. Can you please explain that in greater detail?
Yeah, so
Okay, I see my notes now. Okay.
the 70,000 is not tied to gaps. This, my understanding, was a agenda item that went before the boards that predates me, called the volume decrease adjustment. And I believe it was for fiscal year 21 or 22, in which a contingent fee consultant was hired to go through, and my understanding of the agreement is that if this was a item that CMS put forth called volume decrease adjustment to help compensate for losses due to, let's say, elective care that the hospitals could not perform. So with this decrease, if there was more than a 5% decrease in the post-COVID years, then a filing could be done with CMS to try and recoup some cash. And with this, we were notified that approximately $70,000 would be received by the district. It has not yet been processed. However, we have received notification that is currently being worked on by CMS to be paid. Again, with the government shutdown, it's uncertain exactly what date that will be paid. But that was a separate non-patient.
Okay, thanks for explanation. You said that was for fiscal year 21 and 22?
I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head if it was fiscal year 21 or 22.
Okay. And just for the record, I wanted to ask, ask about the audits. Which ones are completed and which ones, for clarification here on my notes, I wanted to ask about which ones are completed and which ones are still pending. I think I heard 23, 24, and 25.
So
and 23 is nearly done, completed.
Yeah, so Trina's 23 is nearing completion. Part of the challenge we had with fiscal year 23 was that the current auditors had some disagreements with the numbers presented in the fiscal year 22 audit. They were enough that we at least had to examine them, go through, and then perform an in-depth reconciliation of district fixed assets, prepaids, inventory. So there was a lot of work that had to go into verifying the district's financial either assets and liabilities compared against the fiscal year 22 audit. With that, the most significant component to this was the revenue and accounts receivable reconciliation. Of course, with the loss of all scripts and the data going into a data warehouse, it made the work a lot more challenging to go through and manually reconcile the claims and the receivables balances. So there's a lot of cleanup work, both not just 23, but also 22, trying to verify prior auditors' work papers against what we are reporting and counting for fiscal year 23. and making sure that our current auditors agree with what is stated. So with that, 23 really took a lot of time, a lot of manual reconciliation, significant amount of staff time to prepare. There are a few items that we're still working through before that can be finalized. Once that's done, I'm told it will take about 4 to 6 weeks for the auditors to complete their work, to complete fiscal year 23's financial statement audits.
Ms. Hudson, did you have something to say?
Fiscal year 24, there some preliminary work has been worked on. However, that one will be worked on once fiscal year 23 is completed. I firmly expect that fiscal year 24 will not take as much time as 23, given that we've done the extensive reconciliation work for fiscal year 22, 23 previously. So right now, 23 is the priority, then 24, then we will need to roll into the fiscal year 25 audit, which wrapped up in June 30th, 25. However, we cannot complete 25 until 23 is done. As I had mentioned, the balance sheet rolls year over year over year. And if 23 has issues, then we need to make sure that that is corrected first before rolling into fiscal year 24 and then to fiscal year 25.
Can you explain, or do you have any comment on why these fiscal year reports were completed?
So with this, with the turnover in CFOs, that was what our current auditor, Moss Adam, which is now part of Baker Tilly, part of their due diligence in taking us on as a client, they had to speak with the prior auditor, which was Armanino LLP, for I believe the last decade. And so what was shared to us from the partner from Moss Adams was that in speaking with the prior auditor, they believe that these significant delay in these was due to the turnover in CFOs, as well as part of the reason for the delay was the Allscripts transition over to Cerner. There was limitations in data that could be pulled, which made it very difficult to audit revenue and accounts receivable balance, which given the size of both AR and receivables would make it very difficult to provide an audit without those items.
And this would also have a negative impact on the hospital in terms of reimbursement for.
The reimbursement, what would most be impacted is the Medi-Cal funds. So with Medi-Cal, the cost report cannot be filed without a copy of the audit, and that is holding up the Medi-Cal. And this is the direct Medi-Cal. This is not the managed plans through IHP or Molina. This is the Medi-Cal directly with the state fund. So that has held up the collection abilities on those funds. However, the Medicare funds were not contingent based on the audit. And I also want to share, because I know this came up from a public comment, that today we received notice that we should be expecting significant Medicare payments next week. Now, what significant means at this time, we are unsure. The goal is tomorrow to see if these have posted into SSI to show what we can expect in cash collections. There was a significant effort both internally with our billing staff and with GEBS to rework these claims. I believe it's 2,027 claims that had been incorrectly billed under the acute care designation instead of under the critical access designation. So with a very rapid turnover of these, we're now receiving notice from Medicare that they have received the funds, or I'm sorry, the claims, and that we should be expecting funds, although we're not certain yet. So this was a huge improvement because over several weeks, contacts with Medicare, they claimed we didn't receive these funds or these claims. We don't see them. We've paid out everything that has been submitted to us. And so it really posed a problem. So there were a couple of moving pieces, particularly with Medicare funds, that had to be reworked to make sure that they were submitted properly to Medicare. Now we have the notification that we will be paid on these. However, it is not determined at this time just how much those funds will be and how quickly they will be released.
Were these claims were over 2,000, were those in combination of the clinic, hospital, inpatient, outpatient, emergency department claims?
These were all Medicare claims.
All Medicare claims, okay. And then, so you indicated that they had to be resubmitted because they were billing under acute care versus critical access, which that's a pretty significant amount of reimbursement. Am I stating this correctly? If not, please correct me.
Yeah, so with that, the claims had to be rebilled correctly. So that is something that our team with GEBS, I believe they turned that around in or just over a week. I was told by our the vice president who manages our account that their staff worked weekends and worked late to rework those, understanding the district's cash position and the necessity to collect on these claims.
Okay. How do you feel Lawson Adams is performing in terms of being our new auditing engagement with I think, can you tell me, I can't recall the date of when we engaged with Moss Adams. And are they performing satisfactorily?
I would say at this point, well, first, I believe that we signed them at the end of March. They have been an excellent partner. They understand our current financial situation. They work with a number of critical access hospitals in the state of California. And with the merger with Baker Tilly, they do have even more resources. My understanding is Moss Adams was primarily a West Coast based firm, whereas Baker Tilly is an entire US based firm. So we now have a very large and very skilled team. They've been able to help answer a lot of questions for us as we go through, make sure we make corrections, make sure that the financial statements are presented correctly in the final audit. So they really have been an excellent partner.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had is about the Department of Corrections, State of California. How is that with reimbursement to the district? How much and where are we at with that in terms of collecting?
Just going to pull back up the presentation. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. I will say, Trina, that a couple months ago we had, and Jason's pulling up the correct care balance right now as we speak. The correct care, we had a call with them a few months ago and the letter was sent asking for assistance in being able to collect on these funds. In the call with the representatives from Correct Care, when they received the letter, they very quickly paid on the funds, recognizing the delay. And my take from that call was just, it was something, you know, in the administrative bureaucracy, something that was not seen to promptly, and the letter reminded them to address this. So similar actions are being taken. Looking here.
And that there's other in the other category, Michael. So that's not all Correct Care, but a portion of that is.
Okay, thank you. So right.
Correct Care is the managing vendor for the Department of Corrections, State of California.
Correct Care is essentially the Department of Corrections insurance policy for the inmates at the prison.
Okay.
So yeah, so Correct Care, think of them as Medicare, United Healthcare, or TRICARE for veterans. So it's basically their insurance policy. However, when we communicate, we are communicating with representatives from the Department of Corrections.
Okay. So what is the balance currently that they still go to the district?
Vanessa, if I'm remembering correctly on our call yesterday, I want to say it was it 800,000?
I'm pulling it up right now. It's $691,793.
Okay, thank you.
$792.51. So, yeah, and of that balance, yeah.
Is there any hope that, are we being aggressive? When we might just letting them know that we are in dire straits and really need this reimbursement to help the hospital in terms of, providing, I mean, they have an interest too, to make sure that the inmates have accessibility to medical care as well.
Yeah, so Trina, a letter has been drafted for Correct Care, advising of just how important this is. And I will say that last time when we sent a letter, I would say in just over a week, we received about $1.2 million in checks from Correct Care for these backlog claims.
And I would back out of that number that I gave you. Some of that is current claims, right? We're still serving Ironwood patients in the emergency room, and so we do have current claims that we're still going out the door. They total around 220,000 of that number over the last 90 days. So are they really behind? They may not be really behind.
Does that conclude your questions, sorry?
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys, everyone yesterday. Thank you very much for clarification.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rawl, do you have any more questions? Okay, I don't either. So now we open it for public comment. Is there any public comment on this topic?
Good evening, Leslie Joseph Watkins. Just as a point of order, I go to a lot of board meetings throughout our community, and I've watched hundreds of board meetings online. And typically, the board would receive a full packet with all presentations that are going to be made well in advance to give them an adequate time to ask staff questions prior to the meeting. So that might be something that the president might want to implement, so that the citizens of this community and the owners of this hospital are not sitting here listening to the same presentation and the same questions from 3 meetings ago. It is a complete aberration of our time, and we're all here away from our families trying to figure out what's going on. And all of these questions should have been handled well in advance. There's no reason to go through all of this at these meetings. And this is the 3rd time it's happened since January. So I think a matter of point of the procedural aspect would be to make sure that these presentations are given to the board well ahead so they can study them. And if they have questions, they can come to the appropriate persons to get that information. So I have a question with regard, we've talked about Gibbs about 20 times tonight. We've heard that name. I'd like to know how much money we owe them and where are we at in paying them, because they sounds like our lifeblood right now. And I'd like to know that.
So right now we do have their monthly invoices have been paid current. It is the first, so we will likely be receiving a bill within the next week. There is a amount that was disputed, and that is something that has been worked on with negotiation between general counsel here and with their general counsel. This dates back to last year, some Allscripts claims. So right now that is in question. However, they have been paid current for all work performed, apart from the disputed items, which is right now going attorney to attorney.
Do we have an idea of how much their bill for, that you're going to be receiving is going to be due to the massive weekend nights that we've heard twice already that they've worked in the last several weeks?
They are paid a percentage of cash collections. They are not paid up.
Thank you.
Any more public comment?
Johnny agrees. I think the last meeting, one of the meetings recently, somebody asked what payments have we submitted that were late or will no longer receive payment for, if there's accountability for that, for those late submissions.
I believe right now we are reviewing to see what's included in there. The issue is with the Allscripts implementation, I'm sorry, the transition from Allscripts to Cerner, the implementation of GEBS, and the billing backlog we had to begin with, the turnover in CFOs, and the cyber incident. It's very hard at this point to forecast exactly what that's going to look like because there have been so many concurrent items at the same time. It's a lot of staff time. We have very limited staff. It's something that, yes, we want to make sure that we're able to look into. But right now, with running the district paycheck to paycheck, it's not the top priority. We're trying to collect on as much cash as we possibly can right now. But good question.
Understanding. And the reason I would like that being public, because like when we look for a buyer or somebody to be a successor agency, they don't have to know how much business this hospital is capable of and will have lost. Also, it's mentioned on every document that we have succession of 3 CFOs resigned in a very short amount of time, but there's never anything stated why they resigned. What was the reason that they moved on or no longer work for us? And why? Thank you, Michael, for really stepping up. But as you stated before, you're not a hospital CFO. Not saying derogatory, but apparently we couldn't find anybody that was willing to take the job. Why was that? Anybody can ask. First, why was the 3 quick succession? And then why we could not find one?
With respect to the 3 who quit, I believe that would be protected under the personnel exceptions. So I don't believe that can be disclosed, but what was the second?
Why we cannot find one to take over?
That would be.
I would add to this. Initially, I had been asked at the resignation of the last CFO if I would be interested in the position. At the time, I was not interested. I asked that the position be advertised and to have the district seek someone out. With that, I had been asked multiple follow-up questions of our HR staff, of our administration, of the board, if anyone's there, while I was kind of being the stopgap as the controller, recognizing someone had to be there to at least make sure that the day-to-day operations could continue. And with that, became very quickly apparent that there was no one forthcoming at that point. In December, I want to say just days before Christmas 2024, I was remote at the time with my family on the East Coast, and there was an agenda item that was supposed to come up for the potential appointment of CFO. And at the time, I had asked it to be tabled because I wanted to make sure that the district had really looked for a CFO to step into the position, because I really was not interested in taking the position. However, it became very apparent that the position was not going to be filled, despite my understanding is efforts to hire outside firms to advertise for this position, to seek someone for this position. And so I asked for a 1-year interim contract to at least see this district through, and recognizing that I had the financial, at least understanding of what was happening with this district. So around the same time, we bring in Ms. Wade, we bring in Ms. Burke, and we do a deep dive to say what's actually happening with this district. Help us understand why there's been so much turnover, what's happening, why are the bank balances so low? And the fact finding took several months to really be able to grasp it and say, we're backlogged in financial statement audits. This is really a challenge. And that really makes it hard to present. We have, kind of jumbled data, particularly from Allscripts, that made it difficult. GEBS was implemented very quickly. So in communication with them, they're saying, well, contractually, this is on the district side. And so I say, okay, well, help us understand what's happening because we have Allscripts, we have Cerner, we need to understand this. We had a long-term staff member leave and then come back. So there were a lot of moving pieces. And by the time we were able to really grasp what's happening with this district from a financial perspective, we get hit with the cyber attack, which unforeseen, very difficult. We have Jason here who worked tirelessly for a couple months and our IT director to try and get through that. That really stalled our abilities to continue moving forward. So it really was, and I believe the term that was used in the MSR was a perfect storm, if I'm remembering correctly. So
I appreciate all that explanation, Mike, but I just wanted to highlight it to the community that police CFOs probably didn't want to work here, or after working for a very short time, they no longer want to. That's an issue. That's an issue of management. That's, to me, that should have been quite explored by the board. Why nobody wants to do it? Why now are we just now hiring somebody like Ms. Burke to help resolve this? This could have been done at a time it mattered and ask for help. It could have been resolved. But that's the current board and current administration that we have. So just wanted to make that apparent to the public. That's some of the problems that this board has had. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had a subsequent question with regard to GEBS. How will their billing be handled now that we filed bankruptcy? As a vendor, do they take a priority? How do we prioritize your bill, GEBS bill, Ms. Wade's bill? How does that all work?
right now, we are working to identify what are the mission critical bills to make sure the hospital operations can continue. So GEBS is absolutely mission critical. As we discussed, there's a little over $4 million that we anticipate will be able to be collected on, which is absolutely needed at this time. We've met with GEBS to, explain our financial situation. From everything I understand from GEBS is they're aware, they are working with us. The term they use a lot is we are in a partnership. But yes, they are a critical vendor.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add, Michael, if I could be recognized.
Yes.
They are also going to be doing the continuing billing. As you heard Ed state at the beginning of the bankruptcy presentation, that the hospital's not closing. We need them to continue to bill and collect, and they're paid on a percentage of the amount that is collected. So we know that amount.
And can I have that percentage, please?
I don't know if that's public information. You could.
The public hospital and that contract should be public information.
Well, we can. I don't want to disclose their pricing structure because it could be different than another agency. So that's up to staff and management and legal.
What was your question?
What is the percent that GEBS is paid on collection?
What did you say?
6%.
6%. So if we're at 4, we're gonna owe them $250,000, give or take, maybe 275, 300.
Once the cash comes in.
Okay, and they'll be first to be paid. Ish, high priority.
They're high priority.
Thank you.
Okay, any more public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will now close public comment. Is there any board comments?
I mean, recognized.
Yes, in fact,
It's correspondence, that's been made that the hospital has all these millions out there. So I think it's really important to clarify what the reality of the reimbursement would be of all, like the 28 million. So there's not all this confusion created by public comment. And I want to thank everyone for their hard work. I know that you have a lot of critical things that you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And thank you very much for explaining everything.
okay, Ms. Hudson, any, board comment?
Yeah,
Ms. Rowland? I don't either. Next item, item D, Palo Verde Healthcare District CEO report, Ms. Amaya.
And I'll be brief because a lot of things have been covered. So we had an annual visit from the State Board of Pharmacy. It was conducted in September. No significant issues. We had a successful health fair, and I want to thank a lot of the staff, the board, everybody who donated items. I felt that it went well for the first time. We gave out some flu shots, did some screenings, had community partners there. We spent the day today with the CDHP people from Riverside. I provided them ongoing reports about the status of the hospital and the staffing, et cetera. So they came out and reviewed documents. We went over several items and everything was found to be okay. Won't talk about the LAFCO meeting because it's already been spoken about, but we do meet with community partners from Intercare, Riverside University Health System on a, seems like a weekly basis. We've had a couple of extra meetings that are really helping us. And when we went to Rivco, there were follow-up meetings with the Rivco team. And I understand that they're sending out some representatives, which we're very happy with, that will be coming out from RUHS, Eisenhower Desert Network, and La Paz. Thank you, Z. And these people will come and provide additional insight. I did speak with the Riverside DA relative to a complaint that was made. And as presented throughout the year, we're involved with a lot of incentive programs through our liability carrier, through IHP, and through Healthcare Quality Institute. Some of those programs are paid for, most of them are paid for through either IHP. We've had the potential for getting incentive dollars, which we have for following performance measures, for accomplishing the goals that they set out. Some last year, I think we got reduction in our liability insurance. We also brought in $200,000 to $300,000 of incentive, and prior to that, there was a surplus, I think the year before, of 1.2 million, which is considered non-operating income, but our staff is getting involved with all the incentives. And there's, a way to keep going on this. We're going to keep going on it. It brings in other dollars. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report. And next, we have, are there any board questions regarding Ms. Maya's report? Sorry? Any questions?
Not.
Ms. Hudson, any questions? Ms. Rowell, any questions? I do not have any either. We will now open it for public comment. Is there any public comment regarding Ms. Maya's report? We will now close public comment. Okay, item 6, action items. We'll review and approval of the minutes, tabling minutes from 7/30/2025 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
What's the motion?
Yes.
Is that, okay, thank you.
I need a second. There was a motion and a second. Call for the question.
Vice President Bromwell. Director Starting.
Aye.
Dr. Brooks is absent. Director Hudson.
No.
President Garnica.
Aye. Okay, next item, closed session. Any public comment regarding closed session? Seeing none, close public comment. Closed session agenda items.
There will only be, item number 2, conference with legal counsel regarding significant expense.
We will now go into closed session. We will now come out of closed session and, Ms. Wade, can you please, report out of closed session?
Yes, with respect to item 1 that was not held, that's medical staff credentialing and peer review. With respect to item 2, conference with legal counsel regarding significant exposure to litigation, there's no reportable action. Regarding item 3, and this is in regards to potential initiation of litigation, there was no discussion. Thank you.
This meeting is now adjourned.